Money Stop Mafia, look who's back. It's Cole and Steven Cusumano coming off of a Denny Hamlin win at Dover, which you were at, Cole. I don't want to talk too much here because you got to take the floor. You were there to see it in person, your first ever race experience at Dover. I saw, obviously, the pictures and videos and the Instagram stories and all that good stuff. It looked awesome. It looked like everything I ever expected Dover would be. I see you're sipping on some espresso there. You got home just in time to sip a little bit of that. Well, maybe a Doppio. Tell me how Dover was.
The Dover was phenomenal. It lived up to my expectations and then some. I got to be honest, I had no idea. It was like a mini Vegas in a sense. So when you watch the races, there's a hotel on the backstretch. That hotel doubles as a casino. And what was really cool was I was staying with one of my friends that works in NASCAR. And from my hotel room to the media center was literally like a 15-minute walk. And half the walk was through the casino. And all weekend you had drivers playing blackjack, playing slots. So it was a great atmosphere. The tourism aspect I was really surprised by. And it makes me a little sad that there's not 2 dates there anymore because the fans showed out. I think the fan activations and the fan experience was actually really surprisingly incredible to me. And from a media perspective and a fan perspective, being in the infield and just being in the track in general, there was not a bad seat in the house. Like I was blown away. When you're on pit road, first of all, the pit road walls are very small, so you can see pretty much everything. Wow. But there's like a grass hill by the media center and along the scoring pylon, and you could just sit on the grass and watch the cars go down the front stretch. You could walk across the bridge or stand on the staircase to the bridge and watch the cars literally like feet away from you running under your feet, basically. And it was just absolutely incredible. Steven, obviously, if you're watching on YouTube, somehow popped off just now. I'm assuming he lost connection from his hotel room. He's calling a game for the Yankees AA team somewhere. I think maybe Connecticut or Pennsylvania. Either way, let's put it all together here. Phenomenal experience. Being face-to-face with Miles the Monster was just an unreal experience. I did not think that he was going to be that big in person, but man, I felt like a little kid again being at this track. I cannot recommend it enough. We have Steven back in the room again. Wrapping up here, Steven, I was just saying how Miles the Monster was absolutely incredible. He's massive. You would never expect it from seeing it on TV or the pictures. I felt like a little kid again, just being in that environment and seeing that Miles the Monster monument. And just the whole experience was incredible. I would love to go there as a fan with you and Dad and maybe some relatives one of these days because it was just a phenomenal event.
Yeah, that's always been on the bucket list. By the way, I got kicked off on, I guess, the hotel Wi-Fi out here. I'm in Erie, Pennsylvania. I don't even know what the closest track to Erie, PA would be. Maybe it's Watkins Glen. Maybe it's Mid-Ohio. I don't know. But I just got kicked off on the Wi-Fi. So I got the gist of what you were saying. I've always wanted to go to Dover because I said before, because, that was always the track I loved watching as a kid with Jimmy dominating there. But hearing everything you had to say makes me want to go there even more. And I feel very motivated too, because that's also the closest track to where I live in Jersey. So got to make it happen. Denny Hamlin was one of our winner picks, and he was the guy that finished in first. And as we look at our top 5 here, Cole, we picked 4 of the top 5 again. I feel like we've picked 4 of the top 5, like 4 or 5 weeks in a row, it feels like. So if you're new to the show, we pick 12 drivers every week, 6 per person. So you're making up for 12 out of basically 40 drivers in the field. And we've had just such incredible success where we picked Alex Bowman, he finished 3rd. We picked Kyle Larson, who finished 4th. Ty Gibbs, who finished 5th. We even picked Chase Elliott as one of our favorites of the week, and he finished 6th. Chris Buescher, 9th, and Brad Keselowski, 10th. So we had 7 of the top 10, 4 of the top 5, and we had, 9 of the top 12 here with Kyle Busch and Tyler Reddick finishing in 11th and 12th. So this was another masterclass where, again, we don't want to talk about it every week, Cole, because we do it every week. We bang it out every week where we're first, pick the driver that wins the race. We pick the top 5. We pick the top 10 and the top 15. So we had another killer week as we go now this week to the Brickyard 400, Cole, where Dover kind of was like a crown jewel race for you and I based on how badly we wanted to be there. And I just want to say, too, I would love to be – I didn't know you can go inside Miles the Monster. I honestly didn't know that. I saw that on the Team Hendrick social media. Team Hendrick and Joe Gibbs Racing do such a good job on social media with some of the behind-the-scenes stuff. And I've loved doing that. And I did not know that you can go inside of Miles the Monster. Now that's all I want to do. But another thing I want to do is kiss the bricks, Cole. So who do we think is going to kiss the bricks this week?
Well, I got to say, if last week was any indicator of who's going to be a player at Indianapolis, the safest bets are going to be Joe Gibbs Racing or Hendrick Motorsports. They, for all intents and purposes, dominated this entire race. Chase Elliott, my winner pick, led the most laps. But for a majority of this event, prior to the 2 overtimes, the top 8 were literally all JGR and HMS cars in this race. So it's going to be interesting because I feel like there's not a whole lot to go based off of, being that there's only one oval race at Indy with this current car. And the gap to the last race before that with the Gen 6 is pretty significant because they were on the road course prior to that. So I think it's safest to go with who's looked the best as of late in the 2025 season. But it's also important to point out that the last 3 weeks, the odds-on favorite has gone to victory lane. So I guess your safest bet is going to be Denny Hamlin, who went back-to-back at Dover to go back-to-back in the 2025 season and potentially score his 5th race win this year.
But Denny is number 1 in the pre-qualifying odds this week.
I'm sorry?
Denny is number 1 in the pre-qualifying odds this week.
That's right. You know what? You usually do it. I'll take it away this time. Yeah, so for the second straight week, Denny Hamlin is the odds-on favorite, plus 450 for the win per bet MGM. Then you've got Kyle Larson, plus 550. Ryan Blaney somehow is still in this top 5 shortest odds for the race win, plus 600. He did not have a top 10, or I'm sorry, he did have a top 10 in this race, finished 8th at Dover. That is best of the rest, I'll call him. Chase Elliott, plus 900, and William Byron, plus 1,000 to round out the top 5. Important to note this weekend, typically we have practice and qualifying the same day, typically on Saturday, every race weekend. But for Indianapolis, we have practice today, as you'll be listening, on Friday at 1:05 p.m. Eastern Time, and then qualifying on Saturday at 2:35 p.m. Eastern Time. So with that in mind, if you're listening to this before practice, you can still get in on these odds and the values that we'd like to get out there before the on-track action. But chances are, if you're listening on Saturday before qualifying, they will have shifted probably a little bit after practice. So with all of that in mind, I know I just did this whole spiel. Why don't you kick off our favorite segment here, Steven?
Yeah, I'll start with Ryan Blaney because, like you mentioned, he's kind of the best of the rest, right? I feel like we get to this point of the year, every season, it's like a Team Hendrick Chevy or a Joe Gibbs Toyota is going to win the championship. And then we get to the playoffs, and all of a sudden the Team Penske Fords know how to ramp it up, right? And I think that Ryan Blaney's a guy that, in spite of the fact that those are the 2 dominant teams right now, Hendrick and Joe Gibbs, I think that you look at Ryan Blaney as a guy going into this week, coming off the best of the rest, 8th place finish at Dover, and he was the highest scoring Ford in the race. That snapped a 3-race skid outside the top 10, and he picked up his 7th DNF in that stretch. For Ryan Blaney last year, coming off his third place finish at the Brickyard in 2024, he has only 2 top 10s at this track and an 8.3 average finish in 4 starts here, plus 3 DNFs. So you're looking at a little bit of volatility with Ryan Blaney, but again, coming off the best finish of his career at this track last year and a very solid 8.3 average finish in 4 starts at this track. So at plus 600 for the race win, I think that there's probably more sure bets than Ryan Blaney, but at 10,700, he is one of the most expensive drivers in daily fantasy. So keeping that in mind as we go into our other favorites here, Cole, Chase Elliott was your guy last week. He probably deserved to win this race in terms of the fact that he led the most laps. This week, he's plus 900 at Brickyard for $10,000 in daily fantasy. Finished 6th, and which was kind of a disappointment because we had obviously a lot of money riding on him for a top 5 finish at Dover, but he is the new points leader. We knew that he would be racking up the points, and we mentioned that going into Dover as one of the storylines, the fact that the regular season championship would be very important, and the fact of points racing for guys like Chase Elliott. Looking at his career at Indy, he's coming off a 10th place finish there last year. That was his 2nd top 10 finish in 7 starts at this track. He has a 4-race top 15 streak at Indy with an 11.3 average over that span and a 13th place average finish in 6 starts. that he's finished at this track. So he had the one DNF. You take that out, he's finished 13th in 6 starts here. So I'm looking at Chase Elliott as somebody that in his career has a very high floor at Indy. And for Chase, obviously right now, we mentioned it last week and we mentioned it the last several weeks in a row. He's our favorite Hendrick Chevy right now. And they've been one of the dominant camps in the sport along with Joe Gibbs Racing. So as I pick one of those Team Penske Fords and Ryan Blaney and explain why he's a favorite for the race win and the fact that Chase Elliott should certainly be a race winner pick every single week. Those are my 2 picks this week, Cole. I think you've got to talk a little bit about Denny Hamlin and probably another one of those Hendrick Chevys, right?
Yeah, no doubt. I think just real quick to put a capper on Blaney and Chase. In the case of Ryan Blaney, he's still very much like last week at Dover, the best of the rest in terms of favorites. I think what I like about him and both him and Logano for this week is that this is a Team Penske, Roger Penske owned track. So there should be a little bit more motivation to go out there and get the job done. The speed is still there. It's just not quite on par with the Hendrick Chevys and JGR Fords. And I think in the case of Ryan Blaney, the volatility is what is a hindrance for me in having any confidence in betting him. I'm not touching him for daily fantasy. I would consider him for a top 5 prop or a race winner prop. But, I mean, 7 DNFs in 2025, 3 DNFs at Indianapolis in his Cup career. It's just been a trend in his young career, and it's a shame because he's such a damn good and talented driver, but that's my apprehension with Ryan Blaney. In the case of Chase Elliott, he is clearly in championship form once again, and it's so cool to see. I think it's so good for the sport. But when I first saw the odds that opened up this week, I was a little surprised he was plus 900 and 4th shortest odds. But thinking back to last week at Dover, I think there's a reason for that. And it's because I think Alan Gustafson kind of limits his ceiling. We've seen it time and time again. You hear the fans cry about it nonstop. How many times have we seen Chase Elliott lose a race because of a strategy call gone wrong? It was front and center last week, dominated that entire race, should have won the damn thing. And, I mean, don't get me wrong. I respect the hell out of Alan Gustafson, but, man, it's something that's got to equal out at some point to where he's getting these multiple race wins that he deserves.
And I said that a month ago, remember? I said that when he was slumping. I said maybe it's time to start thinking about the fact that they need to break up this pairing of Alan Gustafson. He's always been somebody that's very well respected in the sport for good reason, but I mentioned it when he was slumping. It's time to probably start thinking about breaking the two of them up and the fact that could be an issue.
Yeah, and I mean, you see it in pro sports all the time. If the team is not doing good, the first person to go is the head coach, or it's the bench coach, or whatever. So it may be time for a change. I don't know. He's still a great crew chief. Either way, I think that's why his ceiling's kind of limited, and I think that's why you have Kyle Larson as the favorite in the Hendrick stable for this week in Indianapolis, coming off a top 5 day at Dover, hopefully back into his championship form. That snapped a 3-race streak outside the top 10 for him. He's now 38 points back from the regular season championship with 5 races to go in the regular season. He won the only Gen 7 race on the Indy Oval last year, started 5th, led 8 laps, and had an average running position of 11th in that race. Always been a really good track for him. 4 top 10s, 13.9 average in 7 starts. And I think that the big thing here is he's running double duty, obviously. When Kyle Larson runs double duty, whether it's an Xfinity, trucks, on dirt, it usually translates very well to Sunday. So just going to keep it simple. Kyle Larson, I think, should be a lock for any lineup in daily fantasy at $10,500 because he's easy money, guaranteed money in my opinion. And plus 550 for the race wins a great value as well. That's one that I think I'd want to get in on before practice and or qualifying. And then, of course, we got to talk about Denny Hamlin coming off that series best 4th race win of the season at Dover. And again, the odds-on favorite has won the last 3 races in the Cup Series season. He's plus 450 for the race win. Very steep $11,000 in daily fantasy. And now, coming off that win at Dover, he's finished 4th or better with 2 wins in 4 of his last 6 starts. So he, in my opinion, he's the best driver in the sport right now from a consistency aspect. He's only 1 point behind Kyle Larson as well for 3rd in the standings, which is flying very under the radar. And he is someone who I actually asked at Dover, he's in contention firmly for the regular season championship. He's never done that in his entire career. He said that he values that even more so than a regular championship in some aspects because it's so hard to do at this point in his career and just in general. So he's going to be highly motivated to go out there and get the job done once again. He's finished top 10 in half his 16 Brickyard starts. He crashed in his last 2, but he's had over 19 laps led in both of those starts where he failed to finish. Never won here. Best finish of third 3 times, a 14.6 average, and second most laps led in the series with 152. So I think your favorites by far and away are going to be Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, and I think Chase Elliott has a good shot, and then Ryan Blaney is best the rest.
I completely agree. Now, as we move to sleepers here, Cole, it's funny to kind of see the complexion of our season where guys in this sleepers category started the year as value picks. And I think a good example of that is the first guy I'm going to mention here in Ty Gibbs. Like, we were all in on the Ty Gibbs renaissance. Like, we were the very first to say towards the beginning part of the year, as you chug your Doppio, we were first to say, like, Ty Gibbs, stay as far away from him as possible. But the second that we saw glimpses of a breakout taking place, we've been in on it. And if you've been listening to this podcast, you've been in on it. So much to the point where he's now in our sleepers category at plus 2,500 for the race win, 8,600 in daily fantasy, coming off a top 5 at Dover. And you could very well tell that the speed is legit. We've seen it weeks in a row. We've seen it at different kinds of tracks. We saw the first inklings of it going into Dover and even before that, because he's had now 3 straight finishes of 7th or better. He has a 7-race streak of top 15s with an 8th place average finish over that time. So you're talking about a sample size that's about 20% of the NASCAR season. That tells me what I need to know about Ty Gibbs. Like last year, when he hadn't had this really bad rookie season yet, we were all in on Ty Gibbs. And I'm still fully in on the talent that is Ty Gibbs. And now that the speed is there, and we've been talking all of this jazz about Joe Gibbs Racing and Denny Hamlin and guys like Chase Briscoe, who I'm going to get to in a second, I'm all in on Ty Gibbs. Last year at Indy, he started 6th, so he showed he has legit speed here. That was his only oval start at Indy, where he finished 23rd. And oh, by the way, we've gone almost 20 minutes here, Cole, without mentioning the fact that he's racing for $1 million this week. Could you have drawn it up any better than this? Ty Dillon versus Ty Gibbs? Who would have ever thought that would be possible? Who would have ever thought, man? It's unbelievable. But as if this breakout wasn't awesome enough to see over several kinds of tracks, 7 races in a row, and especially the last 3 races in a row, you go to Indy now, and you see how hot the Joe Gibbs Racing Toyotas have been. It's been so cool to see the breakout of Ty Gibbs happening right before our eyes. And going into this week, again, at plus 2,500 for the win and 8,600 in daily fantasy, that is a borderline lock for me. And as you can tell, we're all in on the Joe Gibbs Racing Toyotas. And with that has coincided with the breakout of Chase Briscoe, who is a guy that we were all in on to start this year. And we didn't really know how long it was going to take for him to kind of settle in with Joe Gibbs Racing. Well, I guess the answer to that question was a half a season, because you look at where that team is at now, plus 1,200 for the race win, 9,300 in daily fantasy, coming off his 10th top 10 of the season, which was his 2nd straight second place finish. Like, there's a world where we could be talking about back-to-back wins for Chase Briscoe and the 19 team. This is exactly what we expected out of that camp. And it was just a weird start to the season after a good finish in Daytona, the penalty, which was rescinded. There was a lot of weird stuff going on with that camp to start the year. But now that they've strung together good results consistently, we know the speed is there. He's got some confidence. It's crazy to think that it's taken this long for Chase Briscoe, but it makes sense. Like any other sport, you look at basketball, where in the NBA, like a new player comes in, it takes them like a half a season to gel with the rest of the team. You look at it in football, like a new quarterback has to adjust to the offense. A new wide receiver has to learn the playbook and the route tree and all that kind of stuff. In NASCAR, you got to build up that comfortability like Chase Briscoe has had. Coming off a 24th place finish last year in his only other Brickyard start. And you can pretty much disregard all other prior stats for Chase Briscoe. I think a good analogy for Chase Briscoe is like when Kyle Larson moved from Chip Ganassi to Hendrick Motorsports. It's basically the same thing watching Chase Briscoe move from Stewart-Haas Racing in its state prior to this season to Joe Gibbs Racing. Like, you can pretty much disregard all the other stats except for those this year. And you look at the Indy 400, the Brickyard 400 this week at Indy. Chase Briscoe is an Indy guy through and through. He bleeds Indy. He bleeds the Brickyard. Like, he grew up a diehard Tony Stewart fan. He's one of the guys you think of when we come here. This is his hometown race. We've seen the momentum. We've seen the speed of JGR. Just put it simply, we're high on the Joe Gibbs Racing Toyotas, but Cole, I'm all in on Chase Briscoe this week.
I'm all in on both those guys. I've gotten shit at SpeedFreaks for glazing over Ty Gibbs. I think he is primed for a win this year. I really do. I think it very well could come this week. He's been just tremendous. The in-season tournament with the $1 million on the line is obviously a big deal. And I think in the case of Chase Briscoe, I'm just so amazed with what he's been able to do finally. Again, and I think the apprehensions I had with picking him and putting him on the outline towards the quarter mark of this season was that they weren't getting the finishes they necessarily deserved. They had the speed, they had bad luck. And also, referencing back to your great analogy of likening him to Larson's move from CGR to HMS, very much the same exact thing for SHR and JGR. There's not much to go based off of results-wise and history-wise in terms of results for that team and that driver. But like what we're seeing with our eyes now with Chase Briscoe is a superstar, in my opinion, blossoming before our eyes. And I would not be surprised in the slightest if Chase Briscoe or Ty Gibbs won the race this weekend. I think motivation sky high for both those drivers, but especially Chase Briscoe coming off back-to-back runner-ups and going into his home track, which, again, as you put so well, he bleeds Indy through and through. So those are two excellent picks. I would be inclined to put race winner money on definitely Chase Briscoe, but probably even Ty Gibbs with his great value of plus 2,500. For me, I'm going to go with two guys. The first one being Tyler Reddick. Tyler Reddick plus 1,100 and then 9,700 in daily fantasy. Coming off a 12th place finish at Dover with a 6.3 average over his last 4 starts. And one thing I noted at Dover, talking with Tyler Reddick in the media center and on pit road following the race, he looks like a completely different driver than he did at the beginning of the year. I went to the first 3 or 4 races to start the year off. He just was like very short-tempered, I should say, like short with his answers because he's still a short guy like myself. Yes. He was very like short with his answers, kind of like closed off, and just like it didn't seem like he was having a good time. And the Tyler Reddick that I know and that we know, like when he was with RCR and even to begin his time with 2311, was he was very happy and outgoing and having fun, and that's when he was doing good. So to see him back in this state, there's definitely more confidence in his side. It's very evident when you're around him in person. That's big for him. Very temperamental driver. Last year, finished runner-up at Indy with 40 laps led. That was the most in that race. And he's finished top 10 in both of his Brickyard starts in the Cup Series. So he's a guy with a very high floor, and I think he definitely has race winner potential. I don't think I like him more than the 2 JGR Toyotas that you mentioned because, I mean, we saw it at Dover too. Like it was clearly JGR and HMS, but 2311 was like that next manufacturer stable right behind those two. So they're knocking on the door of contending for these race wins, but I'm looking at Tyler Reddick as more of like a top 5 prop or for daily fantasy as a lock. And then another guy that I'm very high on this weekend, and it's going to be an odd one, is Joey Logano, who has a great race winner value this weekend at plus 3,000. He could very well be a value pick in that sense. $8,800 daily fantasy points to more of a sleeper value, so that's why he's in this category. But he has a high floor with a proven ability to execute in big moments. And I mentioned when referencing Ryan Blaney, this is the Roger Penske track. The motivation, the pressure is going to be on, and that's when Joey Logano specifically thrives. Finished 14th at Dover. That was his 3rd consecutive top 15 finish, which, for a guy like Logano, it's not something to brag about, but for how his season has gone, it's very progressive and it's a positive takeaway. And I think it's a good thing going into Indianapolis because although winless in 13 starts, he only has 1 DNF, which came last year, 12.6 average. And prior to that DNF, he had an 8-race streak of finishing 13th or better with 2 runner-ups. So I think just speaking from an intuition sense, which has played out well for us in doing these shows.
Oh yeah.
I love his potential, and I feel like many will be sleeping on Logano, but I will not be sleeping on him this weekend. I think he'll be a good pick for daily fantasy. I'm going to consider him to sprinkle on for race winner bets, top 10 props. So give me Reddick, give me Logano.
By the way, how about a little from Joey? That was great.
Oh.
Yeah, it was.
You were seeing slithering off. I have, for those who don't know what we're talking about, on SpeedFreaks, I had an on-camera interview with Joey on Saturday, and I'm predominantly a written journalist, so I'm not used to on-camera stuff, especially being alone. I was by myself this weekend, so I had Drew at Team Penske recording the whole thing, and it was a learning curve. It was an experience. It was fun, but I probably would have thrown a little, like, you know, we're both paisans here. Give me a little to close this thing out, but I was just kind of like, I rushed into it, and it was kind of awkward, but as Joey said in his interview, he loves an awkward moment, so that was a lot of fun. And next time we'll get a nice hearty for Logano.
He'll get it next time. He'll understand.
Yeah.
Oh, Joey Logano. Joey's paisanos. All right,
Yes.
Joey. We got Tyler Reddick. You got Ty Gibbs. Chase Briscoe is our sleepers this week. Cole, I want you to kick off our value picks category this week, because as we talk about drivers that don't have as much of a chance at the win, but more of like, I guess, just they're good values this week. Who would have ever thought, first of all, that we have a driver that's plus 100,000 for the race win in our value picks? And secondly, who would have ever thought we would have Ty Dillon as one of our 12 drivers mentioned? Tell me why.
And yet, here we are. Ty Dillon makes his, I believe, probably first appearance ever on the Money Style Outline.
I believe so.
He's got so he is on the Cinderella run of the century here for this in-season challenge.
Can't believe
he's knocked out guys like freaking I can't even think off the top of my head right now. Alex Bowman, Brad Keselowski, to name a few, but it's more than that. So with this immaculate run that he's on, this improbable run that he's on, he finished 20th at Dover. That marked his 4th straight top 20 finish. And that in that span, it includes his first top 10 of 2025. But in that 4-race stretch, he has a 16.3 average. And even more impressive than that, his season average is still 22.3, which is actually really damn good when you consider Ty Dillon and his career thus far in NASCAR as a whole, but even like the state of college racing. So to have a 6th position swing over a season average is really good in that span. And I think what's really cool with this in-season tournament is that they have like the ticker up throughout the whole 4-race stretch so far. And it seems like every single matchup, the drivers are like running right next to each other, within a position of each other. So we've mentioned Ty Gibbs' success and his speed as of late. If the trend holds true, it should be a Ty and Ty show, duking it out side by side within a few positions this entire race. And I would not be surprised in the slightest, because even more impressive and shocking than his current 4-race stretch, he actually has a lot of success at Indianapolis. 17.2 average in 5 Cup starts in the Indy Oval. Best finish of 13th with no DNFs. And get this, Ty Dillon is a winner at the Brickyard in 2014 in the Xfinity Series with 5 top 10s in 6 starts. So Ty Dillon, take the in-season tournament challenge out of this, the motivation and the confidence high thereon. He's had success and speed at this track specifically. It's probably the only track where he's ever had that in his entire Cup career and NASCAR career as a whole. Ride Ty Dillon like no tomorrow for this weekend. For daily fantasy, $5,500 is a steal. I'll tell you right now, you're going to need to have him in your lineup if you want to get somebody like Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin in there. And I think you're going to want him in there regardless, because when it's all said and done, he's going to make a lot of people a lot of money. I really do believe that. So
I want to add one Cinderella stat for you, Cole. One Cinderella stat. The first 17 races of this year, Ty Gibbs had 4 top 20s.
Holy
for 17 races of the year. Now 4 races in a row, he's had top 20s. Like, that's insane to think of how rare that is for Ty Dillon.
It's amazing.
That's all I got for you. That's the Cinderella stat.
If you're not sold now on Ty Dillon, then just stop listening. That's all I'm going to say. And now for my other value pick, I was shocked to see his race winner payout. It's going to be KFB, Kyle Busch. Shocked me not mention Kyle Busch. Plus 5,000 for the race win. Plus 5,000 is an insane value for a 2-time Brickyard winner in 17 starts, which is the most in the series. Experience is going to play a huge factor for a track where there's not much experience with this current car. 70% top 10 rate. Most laps led with over 300 and a 12.8 average finish. Last year, finished 25th with laps led. Coming off an 11th place finish at Dover was his third straight finish of 11th or better. He also scored his second top 5 and 7th top 10 in that 3-race stretch. And he is now 39 points out of a playoff spot with 5 races to go. Much like Joey Logano, this is a former champion in Kyle Busch, 2-time champion, a former Brickyard winner. With his back against the wall and finally some good fortune and some speed in his side, I really, really believe Kyle Busch is going to be a great pick for daily fantasy, $8,100. He is going to be looking ahead to our big money bets, probably a lock for a top 10 prop. And again, he's someone that I would consider for a top 5 and even a race winner. For that value, especially if you put $5 for him to win on plus 5,000, you're making out big time. So give me KFB and give me Ty Dillon.
I would like to choose one of Kyle Busch's blood rivals as my value pick this week. One of my value picks, and that is Brad Keselowski, plus 2,000 for the race win, 8,400 in daily fantasy. He's actually the most expensive of our value picks this week, and he's coming off a 10th place finish at Dover, which was his 5th top 10 over the last 9 races going back to the Coke 600. He also has a pair of top 5s over that stretch. In the last 9 races, a 14.7 average finish. So for Brad K, he's starting to recapture a little bit of the success that we saw last year. Not quite the speed overall, but in comparison to the first several races of the year, it's a big difference. Like overall, he has a 21.8 average finish. Last 9 races, 14.7. So that puts in perspective just how bad that team was the first 17 odd races of the season. But at Indy this year, for Brad Keselowski, he has 12 starts at the Oval at Indy, including a win in 2018. He last year finished 21st, but led 35 laps here, and then a 13.6 average finish and 143 laps led, including 1 DNF. So he's shown he can get around this track at a very solid clip. And for Brad K, like, again, the 9 races in a row he's had, that includes a pair of top 5s, that includes 5 top 10s. I'm reading a lot into that for Brad Keselowski, and the fact that he's another guy, like, yes, he's still in our value picks, but we've been in on the upward trajectory of this number 6 team, and the fact that there is good speed with the RFK Ford. So I like Brad Keselowski as a value pick this week. And just beyond him, you got Carson Hocevar plus 2,500, 7,900 in daily fantasy. And he's a guy that, things have come crashing down a little bit, right? He finished 35th at Dover. He's been a driver riding the highs of a good start to the season. He's had 3 straight finishes outside the top 30. But where he has made his success this year, his bread and butter has been the high-speed tracks. And the evidence of that would be a 2nd place finish at Atlanta, where he almost won the whole damn thing. He finished 6th at Talladega, had a pole and laps led at Texas, finished runner-up at Nashville, 10th at Atlanta, Charlotte, and Michigan, and even last year finished 12th at the Brickyard in a season that wasn't anything like the one we've seen this year from Carson Hocevar. So, yes, he's on the 3-race top 30 streak, but this is what we're so good at on this podcast, Cole, is targeting when these lows are going to end. Like we did it with Ty Gibbs. We've done it with Brad Keselowski, several other drivers, Ryan Preece. I can go on and on. But I think we can pinpoint this 3-race stretch for Carson Hocevar as over. Like he's been one of our favorite drivers to pick out of our dozen every week all season long. And I think there's really good reason to believe that this 3-race slump is going to end because he's finished above his career average at the Brickyard entering this year. And you look at his success specifically at the super speedways and the high speed tracks this year, like the Brickyard. I think there's very good reason to believe this could be a strong start for Carson Hocevar. So we got Hocevar, we got Keselowski, Kyle Busch, Ty Dillon as our 4 drivers in the value picks category here, Cole. So
I want to add one more thing.
Yep.
Sorry.
Go for it.
I feel great about Brad Keselowski. not mention, there should be a major asterisk next to that 21st place finish with 35 laps led. If you'll remember back to this race, Brad Keselowski had this race in the bag. He ran out of fuel from the damn front row from first place with like a handful of laps to go. Now, this is a driver that needs to win to make the playoffs as a former champion, like Joey Logano and Kyle Busch that I've mentioned before, a guy that thrives under pressure, thrives in big game moments. He's a winner at this track before. So when we have picked Brad Keselowski very sparingly, he's done very well for us. Case in point was last week, and this pretty much whole last 9 race stretch here and there, he's shown out for us. So I feel great about Brad Keselowski. Do not sleep on him for this race either. Carson Nosevar, there's certain volatility associated with him and his finishes as of late and all season for that matter, but the speed is undeniable, especially on the high-paced tracks. So just the entire episode, all 12 drivers you're about to mention here, I feel great. This is, I think, one of the most confident I felt ending the driver analysis, take it to the bank segment. It's the RE gold standard, the gold standard this season and just on the money stop in general to craft these things with precision, with confidence. And I am ecstatic for this weekend. I really am.
We're bringing the RA Gold standard to the money stop, and things are already going well. How much better could they get? We're bringing the RA Gold stamp of approval. That's how good they can get. So those are our dozen drivers this week. Let's move along here to big money bets, Cole. I think we've had really good success overall the last, I'm just going to start saying this summer, like all summer long, basically since the weather heated up, we've had really good success. Give me your favorite big money bets this week.
Yep. So as of recording, there was nothing on BetMGM, so these would be via DraftKings. But I have one for each positional prop in top 3, top 5, top 10. First one's Kyle Larson, top 3 at plus 150. Running double duty, coming off a top 5. Most recent race winner at this track and one of his best on the circuit. It seems like a no-brainer to me for him to get a top 3 finish. Tyler Reddick, we mentioned his stats, top 10 in both his oval starts at Indianapolis, runner-up last year at most laps led. His top 5 prop is plus 145. And then Kyle Busch went through his stats, former winner here, needs to have a good run to make the playoffs. He's not that far behind points-wise, plus 110 to finish top 10. Those are 3 that I am locking in as big money bets, and they will likely end up on our $50 budget.
Better or worse picks this week, Cole? First of all, I want to discuss our success last week. We went 4 for 5 on better or worse picks, which was Chase Elliott better than 7th place, Kyle Busch better than 11.5, Brad Keselowski and Ty Gibbs both better than 13.5. The only one we got wrong was Eric Jones to finish worse than 17.5. So we went 4 for 5 on those picks. And then our head-to-head parlays last week, we had Brad Keselowski to finish 4 spots above Austin Cindric. So out of these sort of prop bets, we went 5 for 7. We went 4 for 5 on the better or worse picks and 1 for 2 on the head-to-head parlays. So we did extremely well last week at Dover. And I think we feel even more confident going into this week at the Brickyard.
Yes. I'm actually, there's a few that I'm a big fan of this week. And I'll start off by saying there's no value in the head-to-head parlays. First of all, they didn't have them up on Grid Rival when I was looking at making this lineup, or this outline, I'm sorry. And the ones they had on DraftKings, which don't have the spreads, there were none that looked appealing to me at all. I would stay away from those. There are 4 better, worse, over-under props that I'm really high on. They're giving Kyle Larson a 5th place buffer. So I'm going Kyle Larson to finish inside the top 5. I'm going Chase Briscoe, who we both are very high on this weekend, to finish 8th or better. Brad Keselowski, 11th or better. And then Kyle Busch, 13th or better. Again, just restating our confidence. I liked Kyle Larson for a top 3. So giving him 2 position spreads, great for this prop. Kyle Busch liked for a top 10, giving him 3 position spreads, awesome. And then I think BK coming off that near win last year, in need of a win to make the playoffs. That's a great one. And just Chase Briscoe's speed overall has been exceptional as of late. So the values this week are going to be in your better, worse, over-under props, race winner, and then the top 3, top 5, top 10s.
Now, cruising along to our DFS lineup, I think that you hit the nail on the head this week and talking about the fact that yeah, but Ty Dillon, there's too many ties, right? And they're going head to head.
Mhm.
Ty Dillon's such a good value at 5,500 in daily fantasy. I feel like when you put him in your lineup to lead off, you have the flexibility to do anything, and that's including putting Ty Gibbs in there, right? So starting off with Ty Dillon, you have the ability to afford somebody like Kyle Larson this week. Those are three of the names in our lineup recommended to you: Kyle Larson, Ty Gibbs, Ty Dillon. This is a lineup, once again, that as you kind of alluded to over the course of the episode, Cole, we feel well about too.
Yeah. I think first off, if you want to have Denny Hamlin or Kyle Larson as your ace, you need Ty Dillon in your lineup. So we have this thing bookended by Kyle Larson at 10,500 and Ty Dillon at 5,500. We noted Ty Dillon's a previous winner here. He's in the in-season tournament challenge. With that same notion in mind, Ty Gibbs is right in the meat of this sandwich at $8,600. Again, I think he is a very legitimate sleeper for this race win. We talk about gut. We talk about the vision of seeing who could win this race and who was going to win this race. I kind of see Ty Gibbs at this point for some reason. And then we also have a couple of champions, or actually a trio of champions, in Joey Logano, Brad Keselowski, and Kyle Busch. So we're going veteran heavy. Three guys with a lot of experience here, two guys with race wins here, and then obviously Kyle Larson, again, one of the best drivers in motorsports right now, won this race last year. You got your two in-season tournament challenge guys. So really simple and sweet, really, really good lineup this week, in my opinion, and it should put some money in people's pockets.
Yeah, we're rolling along here. So as we put our money where our mouth is, Cole, let's discuss our $50 budget here, where last week we could have probably done better. We did make half back of the budget, but that's not going to win you money, right? So let's lock in here. Now, I will say, like, we had a lot of money riding on Chase Elliott last week, and he was the best car. He led the most laps. Like you said, kind of compromised by a bad pitch strategy at the end. So it feels weird to say we didn't make the right call last week with this $50 budget, but if you keep riding with this $50, I promise you we're going to end up on top. So looking at that $50 this week, what are we looking at this week?
Yeah, so I have four here for us today. Again, I feel great about Kyle Larson this week running double duty, being your last race winner here, coming off a top 5 finish. I have $10 on him to win at plus 550. I'm going to put an insurance bet down on him to finish top 3 in case he does not get the checkered flag. $10 at plus 150. So you're getting your money back that you lost with that top 3 if it hits. I've got $15 on Tyler Reddick to finish top 5, coming off his runner-up last year at this track, most laps led. And then Kyle Busch to finish top 10 at plus 110. These were DraftKings props. I have BetMGM open now. And there are some pretty enticing ones as well. Just going to rattle off a couple here that I don't have in the budget, but you can consider them for big money bets or like values, such as the $15 in the top 5 or top 10 that I mentioned previously. So Chase Briscoe for a top 5 is plus 150. Ty Gibbs for a top 5 is plus 350. That's an incredible value. And I mean, you have like Logano plus 110 as well, but I think for all intents and purposes, the Larson winner and top 3 prop, Reddick top 5, Busch top 10, and then also potentially the Gibbs and Briscoe top 5 props are ones that I'm eyeing down this week.
So there's a lot to be considering right now, and I feel like Kyle Larson, I just feel so good about. Like, you've convinced me on top 3, a win. Like, I think that's the best way to make money is just pick your guys. Like, I love Kyle Larson this week. So that's our $50 budget, Cole. As we decide our race winner and sleeper picks, this is where we kind of drop the jack, like any good money stop does, and give you our bets. We're going to really put our money where our mouth is right now. I think you picked first last week, didn't you?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, so as I have the first pick this week, I'm going to go with a driver that's actually outside of our favorites for the race win. I'm feeling really good about Chase Briscoe this week. Like back-to-back runner-up finishes. He's the guy at Indy. Like, and you said something that resonated with me. Like, we're watching a superstar in the making. I remember when I was watching Chase Briscoe in the Xfinity series, when he was coming up as a prospect, I really thought he was going to be something. Like, I really thought he was going to be a superstar in this sport. And I still believe that. And all I thought was that he just needs to be in the right equipment with the right team and the right fit. And again, like, it took about half the season for things to really gel. And I really feel that this is the week where we're going to start. I'm not going to say this is the week we're going to start to see the breakout, because we've seen it happen already. But for him to have his first win already under his belt this season, I think for him to go out there at Indy this week and win a second race, it's going to really feel like he's a contender. And I think that, like, again, there are certain teams where, like, Team Penske, Team Hendrick, and Joe Gibbs Racing, like, you're going to be a contender if you're in that equipment, but you've got to have, like, the first couple of good results out of the way. And I really feel like this is the week everything has been shaping up to for Chase Briscoe. He's dreamed of winning here in the Cup Series. Specifically now, like, at this point in his career, it just would feel really good to see him supplant himself as one of the guys to beat entering the playoffs, rack up some more playoff points. I love Chase Briscoe this week to the point where I'm picking him for the race win.
I mean, you've sold me too. I really can see that happening. And, you know, going back to what you said about them being like legitimate contenders, this is a team at this point in the season where there's always a dark horse in the championship four. I could really see Chase Briscoe making a run to the championship four, because even like the schedule in the playoffs, it sets up well for him. He's really good he doesn't really have any weaknesses, in my opinion. Maybe the short tracks, but he's won at Phoenix before too. It was where his first career win came from. So I was looking at MGM for like props for him to make the championship four, and they weren't up. But I'll put up maybe something on Twitter, but that would be something to consider at this point in the season, in my opinion.
Totally. I love that.
I'm sure his value is really good. He's plus 2,000 to win the championship in itself. So I great pick. For me, I'll go with the obvious. I've sung Larson's praises the entire show. Stated my confidence with that in our $50 budget with his win and top 3 prop. So I'm going to go easy with Kyle Larson. And for my sleeper, who else? Ty Dillon. Bring home that $1 million, baby. He's doing it. I could feel it. I could see it. It's Ty time.
I mean, I have nothing to say about Ty Dillon. Like, it's just been such a fun ride to watch. It's funny because when the in-season tournament first started, I compared it to March Madness and how you get fans invested from like these Cinderella runs. And that's pretty much exactly what this has turned into. Like, nothing went as any of us would have expected. Like, our brackets were completely busted. There wasn't a single perfect bracket left after Atlanta. And that's what I mentioned makes March Madness so fun, right? Is like, there's these stories, there's these narratives, there's these other like stories to follow that you would have never otherwise have expected to happen. And Ty Dillon's right there. So for my sleeper here, Cole, I'm going to go with Kyle Busch. He's kind of low-hanging fruit. He's tied for 16th in odds with Ryan Preece. I think you sold me on Kyle Busch. Just too much success, too many race wins at this track to ignore. So I'm going to take Kyle Busch as my sleeper this week for Indy.
One thing I found the championship 4 props. Chase Briscoe is plus 350. That's one that I'm definitely like. I'll probably put money on that, honestly, if I'm listening right now. And if you listen to our was it penny stocks start the year off?
Yeah.
One of mine was Christopher Bell to make the championship 4. Somehow he was above even payout, like plus 150, I think it was. He's now minus 115, which, give or take, very well could happen again. But Chase Briscoe, just getting off track there. Chase Briscoe plus 350 to make championship 4. Keep an eye on that.
It's a great penny stock. And, you know, before we go here, Cole, before we officially drop the jack, I want to acknowledge. I want to acknowledge the most badass piece of news of the entire NASCAR season.
San Diego?
San Diego, the base in Coronado, NASCAR going down there for 2026. First of all, that reveal video, unbelievable. That was so awesome. Such Phenomenal. Great acting, such great performances. And how cool is it they're doing that, man? Like, they could have went anywhere in San Diego. They could have went to the desert in San Diego, but they're going to the friggin' Navy base where Top Gun was filmed. This is the coolest. This might be the coolest thing NASCAR's ever done. I couldn't agree more. It's going to be an incredible event. I love how they're like really making an effort to like partner with the Navy in the United States 250th anniversary. Yeah, that makes it so much cooler.
Because NASCAR and the military are just, they go together so well. They're synonymous with each other, in my opinion. That's why I like the Coke 600 so much.
Oh, can't wait.
I'm so pumped. Like, and obviously, I know they're not on the beaches and in the streets of Coronado and San Diego, which would have been cool, but this is a really awesome event. I love Coronado in itself. That's one of my favorite beaches in the world to go to.
Yeah.
And the weather there is perfect year round. So I will definitely be out there. I will be at the damn Top Gun bar for sure, probably multiple times that weekend. And I will put money on it right now. I guarantee that Tom Cruise will be at that race. Fingers crossed, he will announce Days of Thunder 2 in that process as well.
God willing. That would be
put it in the book.
Put it in the books. Father's Day weekend, right?
Yes, I kind of wish it was on 4th of July weekend because they're not doing the Chicago Street Course this year there, or next year on the 4th of July weekend.
That would have been really cool.
No, not yet. That's one hole in the schedule, but I thought that would have been cool, being that it's the U.S.'s 250th birthday, and it's a being held on the naval base.
Yeah.
So a little bit of missed opportunity there, but irregardless, it's going to be an incredible event.
It's the semi-quincentennial anniversary of the United States of America. What could possibly be better? Am I right?
Amen.
I think the only way it doesn't make sense the only way it could make sense, they're not doing that race 4th of July weekend, is if they have something better lined up. So I'm going to trust the process. And like you said, it's cool they're doing this. It's cool they're doing a lot of different things. Like the fact they did the Chicago Street Course 4th of July the last couple of years has been awesome. I'm going to trust they have something even better in the works. Who knows? Maybe it's even Daytona, unless they've announced that it's not going to be. But if they're going to move Daytona back to the 4th of July, I think everyone would be thrilled about that.
I know I would. Yeah.
Yeah, everyone would. Well, that'll do it for us here on the Money Stop. We're going to drop the jack. Your most important NASCAR betting stop of the day. We continue to steamroll 3 race winner picks in a row, 4 of the top 5, like the entire summer. We're going to keep cruising here, Tom cruising here, as we end this episode of the Money Stop discussing a Denny Hamlin win at Dover. And as we go to this week at the Brickyard, Cole, one of my favorite tracks, regardless of like how the races here sometimes have not been the most entertaining, it's still the Brickyard. It's still Indy. It's been so fun to watch. So I can't wait to see it this week. And I'm going all in on Chase Briscoe. So that'll do it for us here. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Hopefully you're telling us all season long. Follow us on social media at @_Money Stop and at SpeedFreaks. We're killing it this year. We're going to keep doing so all year long as we continue to pick up steam en route for the playoffs. So for Cole, I'm Steven. We'll see you guys next week.